So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to the call. Hey, Isabel, how you doing? I'm just going to get this to mute. All good. I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation. Pretty excited about today. It's one of my favorite topics, and the topic is constant optimization. And what we're really referring to today is we're moving into a world of what's known as accelerated acceleration. And what that means is that things are moving faster than ever before. And we were just having a chat with the presenters like 3 seconds before we got on the call, and AI is the flavor of the month, right? And some people are terrified by it, some people love it. And the reality is it's just another tool that is being put into the toolkit for people who run businesses. But the issue is that if I had a business plan that was written 12 months ago, chances are AI was not in there. And so what we're seeing is this technology evolve so quickly that for business people who are not dynamic in their planning, who are not really thinking about how do I constantly optimize, they're missing these windows of opportunity. So today we're going to talk about 3 key topics. The first one is going to be marketing and how marketing is being impacted by the constant change and what you need to be doing to be constantly optimizing your marketing information. The second one we're going to be talking about is a planning methodology, which we've developed, which we refer to as dynamic planning. So how do we keep our plan up to date? Because my personal experience is most people in business don't have an up-to-date business plan. And the reason is because the minute you finish it, it's out of date, right? So how do you keep that thing up to date? And the last, but probably most important, is understanding your wealth creation strategy and how do you become dynamic in how you're building your wealth and your future. So without further ado, what I'd love to do is hand over to our first presenter, who is Steve Forer from Business Assist. And Steve's going to be talking about driving up your digital marketing ROI with constant testing, conversion rate optimization. So Steve, I'd like to hand over to you and let's get this show on the road.
Thanks, David. Just make sure my screen's appearing well there.
Yep.
So this morning, as David said, I'm going to talk about some constant optimization strategies you can use to keep ahead of your competition. I'm also going to touch on a couple of use cases of AI since it's such a hot topic at the moment. I get asked about it all the time. First of all, I probably need to convince you that I'm worth listening to. I've got 25 years plus experience in marketing, including 15 years in digital marketing. I also have a master's in e-business and I've lectured at postgraduate level in digital marketing for 7 years. So there's plenty of formal training to back up the experience. But I think most importantly, I've helped hundreds of businesses optimize their online presence to beat their competitors. So what is constant optimization will be the first thing I'll talk about. And then I'll just give you some do-it-yourself strategies. I think it's important to be able to do things yourself. You don't want to rely on other agencies, etc. And then I want to show some results on landing pages. I think it's important just to see how powerful the impact can be of constant optimization. And then I will touch on, can I use AI to help? And then I'll give you some action points. So what is constant optimization? It's really the continual fine-tuning and improving of your business, as David said. But really, I think in simple terms, it's just making sure that we keep getting better. And what does that relate to? Pretty much everything. But obviously, we can't optimize everything. But the key to beating your competition is to get better more often than your competition. And that's the way to do that is really by constantly optimizing. So I'm going to mainly talk about digital marketing, of course, but I do want you to think about all aspects of your business. And just remember, it requires a commitment. So what are some of the strategies that you can implement yourself for constant optimization? Well, of course, the first one is to update your website. So it's great to have a really good website, but you've actually got to constantly update it. And that means new content, new web pages, new blog posts, maybe build some trust with case studies, and put in your calendar every month to review and optimize your website. It might sound a bit excessive, but it might only take you 1 hour. And just remember, Google rewards fresh and unique content. So it's important to be constantly optimizing your website. Most businesses nowadays have a Google My Business profile. That's great. It doesn't have to be a set and forget type of a platform. Yes, you must optimize it as much as possible, get as much information in the summary as you can, tick the correct categories, etc. But you can actually optimize it ongoing by posting. But you don't need to go crazy with the posting on Google My Business. But if you're going to do social media, you want to, once you've established a presence on social media, any of those posts that use on your social platforms, you can actually use on your Google My Business profile as well. One of the things I want to say about social media, regularly posting content is good to give social proof of what you're doing, but you've got to actually make sure that you respond to comments and messages promptly. And that's very important. And just on Google My Business, always ask for people for reviews as well. That's probably a good important part of Google My Business optimization. From a content marketing point of view, you really want to be continually creating and sharing valuable content. So that could be blog posts, videos, images, anything that really speaks to the target market and helps establish your expertise and attract organic traffic. Again, keep your website and social media profiles up to date. I think something that's probably not utilized as much as it could be, online directories. We used to be told that this was valuable for SEO. It's probably diminished significantly in its authority now. However, there's still a lot of directories out there online that you can list your businesses for free. So why not actually do that? Make sure it's consistent on each, your address, phone number. Of course, you need to maintain a database and make sure that that's optimized on a regular basis if anything changes. And also optimize your LinkedIn profile. I probably do see it as a bit more of a static type of a platform. You don't have to post regularly if you don't want to. But again, if you're posting on social media, why not repurpose that content and post on LinkedIn? But with LinkedIn, I see a lot of people wasting all that amount of content that you can put in there. So you can have up to 2,000 characters to describe who you are and your business. But importantly, you can actually use that to tell a story. There's also projects you can add. There's different services you can add. There's a lot of different information you can add on your LinkedIn profile. So why not do that and optimize it as much as possible? I think underutilized by typical small business owners is website analytics. Google provide free analytics tools. So Google Analytics, which is great. That tells you all about website traffic and user behavior. But there's another tool that's hardly ever used, and it's called Google Search Console. Amazingly, Google Search Console shows you almost like the back end of how your website is performing on Google. So I would really encourage everyone to try and learn as much about that as possible and get the Google Search Console and Google Analytics data through from your website. And the beauty about that is that you can then make decisions on data. So you're not using assumptions. You can see what's happening online and make your constant optimization changes and adaptations to what's happening based on data, not assumptions. So there's some basic strategies that you can implement as a small business owner. But there's one that I think is really important, and that's client testimonials. Now, I know a few of you sort of roll your eyes and say you don't trust them, etc. But the reality is we can only build trust online in about 5 to 8 seconds. In the physical world, you meet someone, you immediately build trust with body language, etc. But online, we've got about 5 seconds really to really allow people to make a decision whether it's worthwhile staying on our website, clicking through, leaving their details, etc. So we need to build trust. And it's been proven there's hundreds and hundreds of research documents that show the best way to build trust is through customer testimonials. I think it was an 89% rating of the most effective content is testimonials. And I always say, done right, testimonials will always improve conversions. Yes, there are other strategies that you can do to build trust, like social proof, accreditations, awards, statistics. Show your team, as simple as that. Put your team there, put your address and phone number on there. A lot of businesses got offices and they still don't put their address and phone number for some reason. You need to do that from a Google point of view, but you need to do it to build trust. So how do we do testimonials right? Because it's important that we have what I call targeted testimonials. So targeted testimonials are testimonials from ideal clients to attract ideal prospects. Now, of course, how do we get targeted testimonials? Now, I can guarantee you if you emailed all your clients, hardly any will respond with a testimonial. And the problem is if they do respond, it might not actually be phrased or structured the way you really want the testimonial to speak to your target audience. So the most effective way is a strategy that I've been using for over 20 years, and it always works. Develop a customer satisfaction survey and call your clients. make sure you let them know it's going to take about 15 minutes. I've literally called thousands and thousands of people on behalf of clients. And I would say that the people that say no would be less than 2%. So obviously I'm an independent person, so potentially it might not be you talking to your client, it might be someone else in the business or someone outside the business to get a higher yes rate. But just remember, you want quality new clients, so I only call you quality clients. If you're calling people that annoy the crap out of you, they might say the things that will attract people that annoy the crap out of you. So don't call them, just ask the ideal clients. And the questions that you want to ask in this survey, I would call, they sound reasonably straightforward, but it's the output and what they say is incredibly important. So questions like, what's good about our service? Why did you go with us? How can we improve our service to you? Now, of course, that's crucial, how to optimize your service. You need that question. How can we improve our service? And then I like this question, what are the 3 main benefits that we have delivered to your business? It's a real key question because you get those benefits in the words of the client. So the beauty is with all those words that you've got from that customer satisfaction survey, you can reword all those responses. Yes, you can use them to optimize your business, but you can reword the responses into a testimonial. So what I normally do, so I email the client, say, thanks very much for your time. Really loved what you had to say. We created this testimonial out of it and we've actually put it on our website. Thank you. We don't even ask for permission. We just put it up there. Very rarely I can't even think of a time when someone's asked us to take it off the website. So that's how you create a perfect testimonial, really. You're rewording it yourself. And remember, all these words you can use in other content, social media posts, blog posts, web pages, calls to actions. If your ideal client says that, I love how my account manager always picks up his mobile phone, we'll put that in your messaging because that's what your ideal client wants to hear. So they're the optimizations you can do without even really talking about digital marketing. Yes, it is your online presence, but if you are doing digital marketing, there are some tips for constant optimization that I want you to do. And I'm quite encouraged by the amount of people. I mean, obviously, I would recommend go to an agency, but I'm encouraged by the amount of people that are having a crack at digital marketing themselves, which is good. So with Google Ads, what you need to be doing is testing everything. You need to test headlines, descriptions, extensions, constantly testing ads against each other. And whichever headline works best or descriptions or whatever it might be, you then optimize all your ads to be more similar to that one, but keep doing a different variant. So that's something you need to keep doing with Google Ads, constant testing, constant optimization. And really a hot tip, if you're going to do one strategy with Google Ads to optimize, it's to review your search terms. So we give Google a set of keywords that we want it to use to show our ads. Sometimes it gets it right, which is great. Often it gets it wrong. So we need to actually tell Google, don't use these keywords, make them negative keywords. So that's the main strategy. If you're going to do one, review the search terms. Then with Facebook ads, yes, you do need to refresh the creatives regularly, but make sure you optimize them based on the better performing ads. So again, you need to split test ads all the time. So refresh the creatives, but also test the messages. So maybe have 2 images the same, different messages. Look at the different performance of those results. It's absolutely crucial to be testing all the time. And from an SEO point of view, I could probably talk for 6 hours on this topic, actually, but, and I have. Internal linking is something that, yes, as an agency we would do, but you can do this yourself. So if you read your About Us page and you talk about other services, make sure you put a hyperlink to that page. And I'd encourage you to go through any blog posts you have and every single web page and look for opportunities to link to other pages. Believe it or not, Google actually rates that quite highly. It improves the navigability of the website, but also each page is ranked separately. So linking from one page to the other helps all the pages. So that's the sort of main digital marketing constant optimization tips that I have. And what are some of the results of constant optimization? I thought I'd show you an example from the insurance brokers industry. Insurance brokers in Australia pay an average cost per lead about $312. Some say it's a bit high, but that's a conservative estimate of $312. Well, our client, Melbourne Insurance Brokers, they were paying an average of $58 per lead. Now, I can tell you this confidential information because Mark, the owner of Melbourne Insurance Brokers, was able to sell his business for a very significant sum. And he put it down to the constant optimization that we've done on his business over the last 10 years in the digital marketing and marketing. Now, of course, that's been over 10 years, but you can see it's very hard for a competitor to compete when they're paying 5 times more lead. The profitability is significantly more. You can have more salespeople, et cetera, et cetera. So constant optimization can deliver incredible results from a profitability and a return on investment perspective. I'd also like to focus just on one aspect, and that's the constant optimization of landing pages. What are some of the results? Now, remember, these are all real life results. So if you have a look at, I'm not sure how big everyone's screens are, I apologize if you can't see them, but we've got variant A, which has got a conversion rate of 4.6%, which is actually a good conversion rate. We thought we'd change that design. We put some dot points and put a white call to action button. It sounds pretty subtle, but the conversion rate went up to 8.62%, an increase of 187%. So this client was getting twice as many leads and spending the same money. But we didn't stop there and pat ourselves on the back and go 8.6, that's fantastic. We actually kept looking for different variants we could test. And amazingly, we just put a call to action in a bright yellow bar at the top, and that increased the conversion rate to 17.12%. So this client's had an overall increase in the conversion rate of 371%. So they're getting 4 times more leads for the same advertising spend. Now, of course, some months the variant doesn't beat the control or the champion. However, over time, if you test and optimize constantly, you will always increase the conversion rate, always. Just another example, this is one where we were a little stuck on a conversion rate around about 2%. It was still 4 times higher than what they had previously, which is 0.5%. This is a law firm. So what we did was actually a full funnel refresh where we actually extended the number of steps in the journey. So who would have thought a 1-page call to action compared to 3 pages would increase the conversion rate? But as you can see, it's pretty dramatic, from 1.73% to 10.78%. So we've actually increased the conversion rate by 523%. Now that requires more staff to handle extra leads. Yes, that's true, but it's not a bad problem to have. And again, this was just through a relentless, constant optimization. We kept trying and trying, things weren't working, and then we found it had a breakthrough, and that's just through constant optimization. So before I sort of wrap it up, I just wanted to talk about AI, because I do get asked this a lot, and most people say, when can I use it? And really the answer is now. You can actually start using it now. But you need to remember that if you want quality output or quality results, you need to input quality. And if you're not sure what to use, what to say in ChatGPT or Bard, basically put more information in. That's the better strategy. So don't put a couple of little dot points and expect to have some great result. Actually use really comprehensive information. Describe who you are, describe who the target market is, describe how you want them to behave. I want you to give a result as a strategic account manager, for example. So the more information, the better. And at the moment, we're using it, and I encourage everyone to use ChatGPT or Bard, or there's an Adobe one as well. They're great for generating ideas. So if you're stuck for idea for social posts, what can I write about? Use ChatGPT or Google Bard for a list of ideas. Input your target market and talk about who you are, and you'll get some great ideas. It's also good for creating ideas for newsletters, email marketing. You can use it for content in your email marketing and newsletter efforts as well. A good one that we've recommended to some clients is, if you're not sure what keywords your business should target, then just ask Google Bard for a list of keywords. And those keywords then can be put back in to generate blog topic ideas. So you can be constantly coming up with ideas for content. Chatbots have been around for a while, but they've significantly improved since GPT 3.5. So maybe have a look at chatbots again for your website or for your business. One of the main ways we're using at the moment in my business, our team record meetings We've got some software that transcribes it. We use Loom Video, actually, that creates a transcription, which we find the most accurate. We then put that transcription into ChatGPT and ask it to create summaries and also to extract the action items. So it was taking us an hour to create minutes of meetings. It's now taking us 5 minutes, and they're more comprehensive, much better, and the action items are coming out much more clearly. And we're just working much more effectively. So that's a great use right now. For everyone can do that. You've got to be aware of the pitfalls. ChatGPT, if you've noticed, has a little note that says ChatGPT may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. So just be mindful of that. And also, in the last probably 6 weeks, Google have updated their algorithm more than normal, and 3 of those updates have focused on automated content. So maybe don't use ChatGPT or Bard or any of those content AI platforms to generate slabs of content for your web pages or for blog posts, because it's not going to fool Google at this stage. And please remember, ChatGPT and Bard, all these AI at the moment, they're still maths. They're not magic. You're not going to get some magical output. So you've got to have that quality input to get the quality output. Oh, sorry, don't know how that got in there. That one that was snuck in there. And why do we do constant optimization? Well, it's going to increase your return on investment. We've seen some examples of how it will do, but importantly, customers and clients change. Our consumer behavior preferences change. So let's just say you built a website that 2 years ago and you haven't updated it for 2 years. I guarantee you the messages that you're saying are not what the consumers or clients are wanting to hear now. So regular optimization allows you to adapt to any shifts in consumer behavior. And it also allows you to update your marketing strategies. Provides competitive advantage. Now, if your competitors are optimizing constantly their strategies, well, you need to do constant optimization to keep up. I suggest most of them aren't, so constant optimization will keep you ahead of the competitors. And that's refining your tactics, your messaging, and your targeting. As I said, improved return on investment is obvious, but that's in conversion rates and lower customer acquisition costs. And if you can actually identify what it's costing you to get a client, you will be way ahead of everyone as well. And then you can constantly optimize for that. As I said, there's algorithm changes in Google all the time. So if Google's updating frequently and you're optimizing your content and you're constantly optimizing all your messages and tactics, etc., well, then you'll stay ahead of those algorithms and won't be negatively affected. Customer feedback. So whenever you get customer feedback, ongoing optimization will allow you to incorporate that feedback. For example, those targeted testimonials we were talking about. And you can follow market trends and shifts. So as new technologies and trends emerge, you can optimize your digital marketing and all your marketing to adapt or adopt those innovative approaches. Constant optimization helps you pivot and adjust your strategies as needed to changing market circumstances. So it's really important to be constantly optimizing to keep ahead of those trends. So just an action slide for everyone. Please start thinking about embedding constant optimization into your business, make it part of your processes, and create an optimization calendar. It might only need to be a couple of hours a month to update and constantly optimize. And anywhere there's content, there's an opportunity for optimization. Review and optimize website content, blogs, Google My Business, social, LinkedIn, online directories, digital marketing. There's content out there. There's opportunity to optimize. And develop some targeted testimonials using customer surveys. Just surveying clients positions you better in the eyes of the client, and plan to do that as soon as possible. And you can use AI now. Why not use it to generate ideas? Maybe not slabs of content, but ideas is great. And use it to transcribe minutes and meeting summaries. And what I just mentioned before about people having older type websites. So what I'm doing is offering a free optimization audit. So if your website's a year or two old and you're worried that it might be in need of some optimization, we'll come into an independent optimization audit. Doesn't matter if you've got a website person or a digital marketing person, we'll do it completely independent, confidentially, and we'll pick up some opportunities for optimization that you can do for yourselves or engage whoever you want to do it. So constant optimization is all about winning and beating your competitors. So please, I implore you to embed it into your business practices. Thank you for your attention and time.
Awesome. Let's give Steve a nice round of applause. Amazing content and amazing use of this idea of optimization. And I think, look, in business, I think the space of marketing is probably one of those pivotal spaces where optimization is not being addressed enough. You talked about A/B testing and all those sorts of things. So if you're not looking at your marketing and constantly adjusting it and testing, like A/B testing it, you're missing out. So anyone who's interested, Steve's email address is in his little signature, steve@businessassist.net. If you want to reach out to him, he's going to drop a link or an email into the chat box as we're talking so that people can reach out to Steve if they have any questions around AI, around optimizing their website, or around improving their conversions.
We'll have some time at the end too, David, if
questions. Yes, if anyone has any questions, and I forgot to mention at the start, into the chat box. If you have questions for Steve, if you put them in the chat box, he'll be watching those now like a hawk because he's not busy presenting. And also for any of the other presenters, but we'll also have a panel discussion at the end of today's presentation so you can talk to all three. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to jump into our second presentation, which is going to be about dynamic planning. Now, we've talked about this term constant optimization, and I think people are starting to get this idea of, well, it just means constantly checking things. So what I'd like to do is give you a bit of an example, and this is my preferred drawing of a rocket ship going to the moon. Yeah, that's meant to be the moon there. I'll just put that there so you know. And now most people don't realize this, but when a rocket goes to the moon, it actually does not go straight. It does this, right? It's constantly doing this. And it finally finds its way there. But not many people know what statistically is happening here. The rocket itself is only on track for 2% of the time, 2% of the time. And the rest of the time, it is just constantly adjusting its course so that it can actually get to the moon. Now, in business, when we try to plan ourselves in business, one of the issues that we have is that we're constantly trying to come up with a business plan or the best strategy or what marketing channel should I use. The answer is not to have the right strategy. The answer is to be adjusting course constantly. So what I want to talk about is this whole idea of planning, because in my experience, I've been doing this for about 23 years. And from the day I started, what I've been, my goal has always been to interview at least 5 business owners a week. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but I've been doing this for 23 years and I did the maths on this. So I've actually had one-on-one conversations with business owners asking questions around how they strategize their business, what's their secret to success, what's missing in their business. I've done this over 1,000 times. And I'm going to share with you today the summary of all of that information. So if you've got a pen and paper, this would be useful. What I did is I realized that there's actually different stages that people go through in their business growth, okay? And if you think about it, and I had the same problem. When I first went into business, I was there in my world and I was employed as a technician and I decided, bugger this, I'm going to run my own business. And so I actually read a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Now, can I just have a quick show of hands for those people who've either heard of or read that book? It'll only be those people who I can see the camera of. So The E-Myth by Michael Gerber is a must read for anyone who's running a business, because he talks about one fundamental philosophy, and that is working on your business versus working in your business. Can you share your screen with us on your presentation right now, please? And thank you. Hopefully you can see it because it's in my picture. So that's me, this little guy. And I went into business and I decided, you know what, I'm going to start a business. I want to work for myself. I want what everyone else wants, which is freedom and lifestyle choices. Are you able to share your screen so we can see it better, please? How do we do this? Will we spotlight me? I think I am. I think you just have to go into the top right-hand corner, click on view and click on speaker and you'll see me. Yep, awesome. Okay, this is as good as it gets, but I'm going to draw bigger pictures. And what I found was happening is that I went into business and I started running down this road. And my first business was an IT company. I used to repair computers for a living. That was when they were actually built by technicians and then sold to you. And it was the biggest nightmare of my life because all I was doing free work for friends. And that was because I was a nice guy and people liked my help. And I closed that business pretty quickly because I realized I was just trading time for money and I was not even getting paid for it. What I started to see is that the second business I ran, I thought would be better because it was a retail store. We opened two, and I said, there's no possible way I can work in two stores, so therefore I can now work on the business, not in it. And that failed as well. It ended up being the guy who was opening in the morning and sweeping up at night. This is what I learned. When we build our business, there's actually not just one path. There's actually a whole lot of different sequences or events that we need to go through to get to the top. And the very first and fundamental thing that every business owner needs to know is, what are you building? So if you're working as a self-employed person, chances are you're not building anything. You are just working time for money. And that's fine because that's a job, but it's not a business. A business is where you trade a product or service that you don't deliver for money and you make money out of the profit. So my very first question, and I'd like everyone to write this question down. It's a bit of an uncomfortable one. And the question is, what will my business look like when it's finished? Now, finished could be sold. Finished could be under management. But for 80% of people in business in Australia, finished means they close the doors and it doesn't get sold. It just stops going. And that's because they're so intrinsic in the actual core of the running of the business, self-employment. So it's an interesting question. I picked it up from Michael Gerber years ago. And now whenever we start working with business owners, my first question is, what are you building? And they said, well, I'm building a business. And I go, well, what do you need to build it? I just need a handful of clients and I'd be good, you know. Or they say, you know what, it's not clients. I just need one good employee. And they're always just thinking about the next step, but they're not thinking about the end game. So what will my business look like when it's finished has to be your guiding light, has to be the end game. And then what you realize is, even though you might be able to see this thing, it's not a direct path to getting to this end game. There's a series of things we need to do. Now, when we go through this series, I'll explain as we go. The first layer is that you need to get out of chaos and you have to get into control. Now, what I mean by that is, a lot of people I meet who run businesses are constantly just running the treadmill. Is anyone guilty of being stuck on the treadmill in their business? Can I just get a quick show of hands for those ones? Because you'll know if you are, right? Because this is how your day looks. I wake up in the morning, I check my inbox, the phone starts ringing, I speak to customers, I have more calls to make than I have time in my day. And I just don't have enough time to grow. Now, here's the danger. When we talk about growing a business, if you're in chaos and we grow your business, we are just going to grow the chaos. So if you're already working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and we say, hey, let's double the business, you're thinking, how do I double 60? That's 120. There's not enough time in my day. So the very first element of getting to your success is to kill the chaos and get back into control. And I suggest don't grow your business until you've got this under control. Then the second phase of growth is where we start moving into probably the second most important thing in business, which is about cash flow. Now, we've all heard that terminology, cash is king. Cash is king in business. And what cash flow means is that money's coming in and money's going out. So the cash is flowing. And you may not get to keep a lot of it, but when we're small in business, the objective is to keep the cash flowing. It gives you lots of benefits. One is great tax deductibility. So if you've got a lot of cash flow and you're not keeping much of it, you're paying very little tax, right? But the plus side of having cash flow in your business is now you can make decisions and do things. And that moves us on to the next phase. And the next phase of business growth has to be around what I call the growth engine. Okay. Now, the growth engine to me is not what you think it is, right? To me, cash flow in business is everything around what Steve just described, right? It's all about marketing. It's about attracting, converting, and serving clients. And that's cash flow. But what happens is, if we're really good at building our marketing system, and Steve will attest to this, some people say, turn the marketing off because I'm too busy. Who's ever been guilty of being too busy in their business, right? Because Steve knows this is bad news for him, because people say, stop the marketing. We've got too many clients. We can't cope with the workload. So when I talk about growth, what I'm talking about here is building your team so that you don't deliver the product or service anymore. Now, for some people, this is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying to let go of the reins of their business, but you cannot grow beyond, and I'll give you a rough number because it depends on the industry, you cannot grow beyond about $500,000 if you're a one-man band, right? You might get to $1 million if you're selling more products than service, but if it's service-based, you're going to be constrained by the amount of hours you have in your day. Growth means finding the right team members, delegating everything, and I mean everything, to the team members, and then keeping the ones that are good and getting rid of the ones that don't perform. So to me, growth has two components to it: the cash flow component, which is getting clients in the door, and the delivery component, which is serving the clients with a team that is not you. Now, the last part of this level of growth is what we call leverage. Now, most people never get to this one, right? Leverage is about, how do I get myself out? How do I get myself out of the business so that now two things happen? The business can scale without me, but also the value of the business will increase dramatically. Because when I have a business that works without me, the multiple that the value of the business is calculated on grows dramatically. So if you've got a service-based business, as an example, and some of you have, if I'm selling services, I can get something like 1 to 2 times multiple of profit. When I have a service-based business that I'm not involved with and has a team of service providers in it, I can get up to 10 times multiple. So I just want you to think about what that means if you're going to sell your business. And remember, the question I asked at the start is, what will my business look like when it's finished? Well, the answer to that is going to be different for different people. But some of you, it's going to be, my finished business means I'm happy doing my job and I'm making good money and I get to work when I like. Other people are going to say, my finished business is sold. I've got some money in the bank and I can nick off and do whatever I like. Other people are going to say, my business will finish the day that I stop working. And that's okay. But if you don't know the answer to the question, what will my business look like when it's finished? We can't grow the business. Now, I started this whole presentation today talking about dynamic planning, and I'm going to give you the simplest example I can think of. We all carry in our pockets a very powerful device called a mobile phone these days. It's not even a phone anymore, it's a device. And in there, it has a thing called a GPS. And we all use this GPS. And some of us who are older remember the old Melways. Who remembers the Melways days? Right. Melways was great because it was a book, right? And you had to open the book and find the address and then go to the page. And then you had to look at it while you were driving, which was super dangerous. But if you made a wrong turn, you had to go and look at it again. Now, in today's age, we have a GPS, and the most powerful part of the GPS is not the fact that it can show you a pretty map on the screen and show you where the traffic is. The best part of the GPS is what's called the dynamic rerouting mode. And what it means is when things change, like there's an accident ahead or you make a wrong turn, the GPS will then recalculate or reroute you back to where you are. Now imagine in your business, we have a GPS. And in that GPS, we put our end destination in, which is where we want to go, or what will our business look like when it's finished. And then everything that happens in the economy, regardless of whether it's economic tough times like we're in right now, COVID, AI, it doesn't matter. We reroute, right? And rerouting should happen instantaneously, so I know whether I need to turn left or right at the end of the street. Now, to just give you a little bit more detail, and by the way, all of this training, we drill down to this. We drill down on each of these areas on our website called Outcomes Business /Accelerator. I might get Orion just to pop that in the chat box as we're going, just a link to the accelerator page. I'm putting all the training up for free. And the reason I'm putting up for free is I think anyone who runs a business needs to know how to program their own GPS. So I just want to run through the elements of this very briefly so you understand where this is all going. Oh, by the way, if you run a business and inevitably you run a business and obstacles get in your way, has anyone ever been frustrated by the number of things that get in your way as you try to build your business? Right, this is me. This is what I learned. Obstacles look big if you can't see beyond them. But as soon as you've got your big vision occurring, the obstacle looks small. So one of the secrets to being successful in running a business is making sure you've got your eye on the big vision. Now, I'm talking about having that vision in writing. I'm not talking about just saying, yeah, I know what I want to build. It's going to be awesome. I want you to think about, what is it that I aspire to have in my business? What's the end result look like? And when I know what that is, I can put it up here. So this becomes my vision. The second part is that I need to have some sort of planning methodology. Now, for me, my suggestion is you should be looking at your business plan. Well, let me ask you this. If I went to a builder and said, build me a house, and he said, well, what sort of house? And I go, don't worry, just start. That would sound ridiculous, right? The builder needs to know how many floors, how many rooms, how many everything, so he can create a plan. And then when he builds, he looks at that plan every single day. Now, when I ask people about their business plan, I say, how often do you look at your business plan? And some people, at best, once every year or once every quarter. Or most people, when I stare at the shelf, it's there. So to me, it's not about the plan, it's about the planning, okay? And so what I'm getting at here is that you need a planning methodology or a planning cycle within your business. And the way that will work is by you having either a monthly or a quarterly or a bi-monthly is what we do, planning process where you're working on the business, not in the business. And what that looks like is looking at my plan. Is it still valid? Is there anything I need to add? Is there anything I need to subtract? Because last year's business plan did not have AI in it, right? And 5 years ago, business plan didn't even have COVID in it. So now we know that things are going to happen in the economy and we need to be able to adjust our plan accordingly. And so if you're not looking at your business plan at least once every 2 months minimum, then I'm suggesting that your plan is not active, it's passive. The last piece of this puzzle is that we need to track. Now, when I say track, I'm talking about two kinds of tracking. I'm talking about tracking your financials, which is profit and loss, balance sheet. And I'm talking about tracking your activity, which in Steve's situation is leads and conversion, right? Because they're the leading indicators. They're going to tell me what my pipeline looks like, okay? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to understand that to get out of chaos, you need to know where you're going. You need to be constantly checking you're on track, and you need to have a planning mechanism that tells you what to do next, turn left or right at the end of the street. When you have that, you can start to grow. And that's usually where people get to. And just to give you a bit of a benchmark, this is about 250K of revenue, roughly, depending on the industry. Cash flow is the sprint from 250K to 1 mil. And this is all about marketing as hard as you can and as fast as you can and making sure that you're getting results. Now, in the cash flow quadrant or cash flow area, there's 3 elements there that I just want to touch on very quickly. You need to be able to attract, you need to be able to convert, and then you need to be able to deliver. Attract, convert, and deliver to get cash flow into your business. If you can't deliver, you're not going to see money. If you can't convert, the leads are going down the toilet. And if you don't know how to market effectively to attract people, and what I found is most small businesses don't market. They say, we don't need to market. All our business comes from word of mouth or referral. And I'm going to suggest if that's you, you don't have a volume knob, which means you can't scale the business. You're relying on the external market forces to scale your business for you. Now, why is that important? Well, when you come to the team growth area, the next layer, most people are scared to employ. I was talking to a plumber yesterday, and he goes, David, how do I afford to employ someone? And I said, short answer is you need to be confident that you can turn the volume up in your client base, in your customers, so that you can fill that person's time. And this is why the marketing layer, the cash flow layer is so important. Because when I have a marketing volume control, and I can turn it up and down as I choose, I can turn the volume up as I employ a new person to fill their hours. Just making sense? Everyone, thumbs up if it makes sense. I just got a little bit of, I'm not sure if anyone's listening or not, but I think you are. So let's talk about growth quickly, because what's this look like? So when you hit around $1 million in business, this is a threshold that a lot of people get stuck at. And they get stuck at this threshold because it's too big. It's too hard for them to manage. It's too hard for them to run. So the growth platform has 3 elements to it as well. The first one is that I need to recruit. And I'll tell you now, business is not an island. You cannot do it on your own. I don't care whether you subcontract, whether you use suppliers, you will have other people involved in growing your business, at least customers, but they're all part of who you attract, right? So how you attract the right people into your business is critical. And I'll link this back to vision, right? Because when people know what you're about and what you stand for, the right people will come out of the woodwork and be attracted to your business. Once we recruit, then we need to delegate. When I say delegate, I mean delegate everything. Everything that you currently do in your business has an effective hourly rate attached to it, especially operationally. If you're serving clients, if you're taking sales calls, if you just show up every day and talk to people about how they're going, there's an hourly rate attached to it. And as you delegate that to someone who's less hourly rate than you are, you build and scale your business, you will grow. And then when you've got the right people, you need to retain them. Because if I've got the right people on the bus and they're doing their job properly, I want to make sure they stay. And so growth is about finding the right people, making sure they're doing the right jobs, and then holding on to them for as long as you possibly can. And it sounds weird, but I look at this from the point of view of most people spend more money on advertising for clients and keeping clients than they will about advertising for employees and keeping employees. And I'll tell you right now, a good employee is worth 10 to 100 clients. to you in value to the business. But most people are terrified. Oh, what happens if I get the wrong person? What about unfair dismissal? What about 4-day work weeks? Yeah, all that's coming, right? But here's reality. You cannot grow as an island in business. You must have a team. And whether you subcontract them or employ them is just a matter of dynamics of how you pay them. Now, the good news about this is if you build your team and you build your cash flow, you're going to hit $2 million. And I'm talking about revenue here. And we start shifting our view over $1 million from revenue to profitability, because it's not about turnover, it's about leftover. And when we've got profit in our business, and I'm not talking wages for you because you do the work, I'm talking about money left over because you actually have done a good job of creating a great service that people are willing to pay for, then we can start talking about how do we leverage you? How do we leverage you out? Now, an old mentor of mine said to me one day, he said, everybody who you employ will leave, including you. And I looked at him and said, what are you talking about? And he said, you have a finite amount of time that you're productive in business, and you have to start thinking about your exit strategy from the day you start. And I thought, I've never heard anything like this. I'm so busy trying to build my business. What am I thinking of exit for? He goes, because that's the end. And if you start with the end in mind, you will have success. So this leverage layer, this last one that I haven't really touched on much, there's two things that need to happen there. The first one is that we need to lead. The second one is we need to build a strategic leadership team within our organization. And this leads us to an exit. Now, your exit might be 5, 10, 20 years away. I don't care, right? What I do want you to think about is, what does it look like for me? Because going back to our bigger picture here, the whole idea of building a business is to create either lifestyle choices or income choices. And some of us, it might be freedom. For some of us, it might be just being my own boss. And for some of us, it might be cash. I don't know what it is for you, but I want you to work out what you think it is. Start with the end in mind and say, what will my business look like when it's finished? Now, if you can do this, you will build a dynamic plan. And then you use the guiding light, the vision, as your end game in your GPS. And then what happens is from there, we keep adjusting course until we get it right. So to wrap this up, because I've talked a lot and I know there's a lot to see here. Let me get back to this so you can see me. All of this is available on our website. If you go to outcomes.business/accelerator, we have the current version. We're about to launch a new version in the new year. And the reason that I give all this stuff away for free is because I believe everyone who's chosen to run a business is taking a huge risk. And for the majority of businesses in Australia, and we're talking about 90%, they fail. And one of the biggest reasons they fail is the person running the business is also the technician. They're really good at their job, but they really don't know how to build a business. This framework that we've developed over the past 25 years, I give it away for free because I want people to learn there is a structure, there is a pathway, there is a roadmap to growth. And if you're successful in growing it, then we can help you. So the training is free. Our help is not. But we don't ask for people to join us unless they see value in what we do. So if you I always put outcomes.business in, Front/Accelerator, that's the one. If you go there, you'll see the training. You can download the workbooks. There's some cheat sheets there as well if you want some guides. It's a starting point. If you are in a position where you need the help, just reach out to us, because our job is really simple. We can only work with people who want to grow and have capacity to grow. And we make that assessment in our first conversation with people. So if that's you and you feel like you're stuck on the treadmill, so you're either stuck in chaos, you could be at any one of these levels, right? You could be stuck in chaos and just getting too busy. You could be running out of cash. There's not enough money in my business. Or you could be not being able to find the right team members. And I will tell you, the secret sauce to being successful in business is finding and keeping the right people. But for some people, it's too far away. So wherever you are in this level of growing your business, you need to be thinking about, how do I move to the next step? And if you have an end game in mind, and there is a bit of a worksheet on the website about how to create your own vivid vision, you will find clarity of whether you need to turn left or right will come straight into the picture. I see Steve has his assistant there too, which is awesome. Guys, I'm going to wrap my presentation up. What we have next, and I'm pretty excited about this one, because here's what I've learned. What I've learned is that when people run a business, they lose track of their own world. And a friend of mine said to me once upon a time that the numbers do not lie in business. And we talk about profit or leftover. And for many business owners, they're so busy, they forget to think about what happens to the money after they've made it. Our next presenter, Brett Hansen, who runs Hansen's Accounting, is very good at helping people manage their money. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to hand over to Brett, who's going to be talking a little bit about how we manage our finances, and specifically optimizing and protecting the future of your business in a fast-moving financial landscape. So Brett, I'm just going to hand over to you.
Thanks, David. Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my screen okay, just checking in from that point of view.
Yep.
All good? Okay. Just a little bit about me. As you can see there on the screen, I've done a few different things, but probably the best part about me, I think, is the parts down the bottom. Yes, I love Collingwood, fanatic Collingwood supporter. I'm a even bigger Star Wars nerd, and yes, Mum's chocolate ripple cake is to die for. So, yeah, that's a few things about me, but properly, I'm director and CEO of Hansen and Wills. We're a business advisory and accounting firm that we operate out of Mount Waverley. We work closely with, well, hundreds of small and medium businesses throughout Australia, and our speciality focuses on business owners who are currently needing to properly structure themselves. They're looking to grow or currently growing, like David just talked about, and those who are also ready to transition their business into a new set of hands. They might be looking to sell or to move on. The way we do this is a little bit different from the norm. I'm actually a succession, asset protection and estate planning advisor, as well as being an accountant. So therefore, I not only have an understanding of clients' current situation, but I look into the future and how I can protect them and their assets. So they've made money out of business, but they're also very much exposed. What today I'm going to look at is constant optimization in business and personal protection. I'm not going to bore you with technical session on debits and credits as an accountant. No one wants to listen to that first thing in the morning, and especially not me. But it's about what's coming. We went through essentially 3 years of COVID. Business and life has never been back to what it was as normal. And to be honest, people have become very desperate and very lazy, and they want a quick fix. And what we're exposed to is that quick fix can be you and your business. So I've put up a little slide there. Most of you would probably be aware of this famous quote by Kerry Packer, and he's actually very correct. No one wants to pay tax. We're not trying to avoid it, but we want to pay as little tax as possible. However, that should not be our main focus. And I can assure you it wasn't Kerry Packer's main focus either. Most accountants that we see and that you deal with, they're very good but worry about focusing on the 25% of tax that we have to pay as a business, or even worse, up to 47% as an individual. Each year, the scramble's on to ensure that clients get all their statements in, get their zero files up to date, lodge before any penalties can be incurred. Rinse and repeat every quarter, every year. It's predictable, and it's given that it's done. It's the law that you have to do it. They concentrate so much on that 25% of the business profit that you have to pay in tax. Yeah, we also do that too. But more importantly, we focus on the protecting, at least as a minimum, the other 75%. With all the spotlight on trying to save tax and remain compliant, what about the rest of your wealth? How do you worry about the rest of your wealth? You've got your home, you've got your business, you might have shares, you might have the beach house, you might have a fishing boat or an aeroplane, but there's no point concentrating on saving tax if it all can be gone in a split second like that. So this morning, I'm going to challenge you and make you think about how well you and your business are actually protected. What burglars have you leaving the door wide open for? So what do I mean when I talk about burglars, especially in business or even personally? So I've got a list there. We've got the ATO, we've got our creditors, we've got our employees. But we've got a few other ones that we need to think about from an external point of view. ex-spouses, rogue adult children and their partners, second relationships, your spouse's new husband, their wife and kids. The big one that's coming into play, and we would have seen over the last 10 to 15 years, no win, no fee lawyers. They target small businesses especially, and those business owners. So do you really want to optimize what you've got right now? So you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, but none of these burglars are going to affect me, or that I'm not in that position. Well, maybe not. But one thing I really want to urge you to consider what is coming, and that is an intergenerational transfer tax. Over the next 20 years, $4 trillion will pass from one generation to the next. $4 trillion. And guess what? Not Gen X, but 43% of Gen Z and 35% of millennials are sitting there going and expecting, where's my inheritance? When do I get it? I need it. I have to have it. I'm really need it. Expecting it, sorry. So if you're a baby boomer and you'll be born between 46 and 64, any of the assets you have now, your house, your bank accounts, your business, what might be in a trust, it has to go somewhere when you die. And you might have already seen some of the discussions in the press around what is going to be a death tax, this transfer tax, intergenerational transfer tax. Currently, there's government focus groups which are being formed, and what's it going to look like? How's it going to work? Well, when you die, your asset, which is what makes up within your will, it's going to be taxed at 20% of your value, anything in excess of $500,000. Ouch. We're following in the path of the UK. So add that to your burglar list. So while you might have your relationship with your accountant in the past, that's still been talking about saving about tax year in, year out, I'm going to give you 3 stories that I want you to consider for your own personal circumstances. The first one is around succession. Funnily enough, and these stories are real life stories that we know of within clients. Funnily enough, this first one actually centers around an accountant. We were originally set to meet a couple, Anne and Rob, who own their own business and were about to go away on a holiday to Bali. And they were keen to get their will and power of attorney fixed up before they left. But before we could even begin the general small talk in the meeting, Anne asked the question of, what if something happens to me and Rob while we're away? What happens to our business? I said, well, that's a great question. Why do you ask that? And Anne said, because we've just recently had a personal friend pass away. He was an accountant, and the business has turned into a mess since he passed away. No one can do anything. His wife is panicking, his clients are owed money, and the ATO won't deal with anyone. The accountant himself was operating at a trading company, which a lot of you may be doing, and he was the sole director and the sole shareholder. He had in his will, in place properly, where his estate was to pass 100% to his wife. Not a problem there. However, his estate cannot be dealt with until probate is granted. So in the meantime, who runs the company? Sole director's dead, and corporation law states that a company must have no less than one Australian resident director. His grieving wife can't run the company or sign anything, as she's not a director. Will can't determine who becomes the director of that company. She can't be appointed as a director unless instructed by the courts, because probate hasn't been granted, no one's taken over their shares, and the shareholder appoints the director. Even his executor or legal personal representative can't be a director either, because technically he's still not the executor, he or she's still not the executor. So without this company having a director, without this accounting firm having a director, no one can legally do anything. No one can make a payment out of a business bank account. That means wages, that means creditors. No one can deal with the ATO to make the business's tax lodgements. No one could release the client's funds that the business was holding within their trust account where all the client's tax refunds have been sent. No one could engage with the bank. No one could speak with the clients about what was going on. And no one could go and take any steps to sell his business. So a business that could have been worth 500,000 or 600,000, if not more, could be made worthless as clients need to continue to have their work done, have their affairs attended to. And no one is also authorised to undertake that work. So they just go somewhere else. What if this was to happen to you? What if in your business something was to happen to you and no one could take over in the short term? What do you have in place to protect your business and your family's interests of your business if something happened to you? Do you actually have a successor director solution in place? The second story is based around asset protection. Now, we all talk about asset protection, especially a lot of accountants talk about asset protection and structures. But we all hear about the best asset protection strategy for a business owner and director. We put the house in the non-working spouse's name, usually the wife. That's what we do, right? Wrong. So this next story is going to be about a husband and wife. Now, you'll laugh at this, but yes, their names were actually Jack and Diane, and they both ran their own businesses from home. Jack actually operated a successful property development business via a trading company. Again, sole director, sole shareholder. Diane owns all their non-business assets, family home, car, some shares, and some cash. Usually that's how we do things. But little did we know that Diane had started her own yoga business on the side, and for 6 months had slowly built up a niche client base. But being only small, she operates out of her own name as a sole trader. Again, a lot of people still do that. They don't structure themselves properly. She has all the business insurances in place, especially to run yoga business from home. So sounds normal, yeah? Well, one beautiful sunny morning, Diane took her yoga members to the park across the road to feel at one with nature. The family dog, Snoopy, he would often join in the yoga group, and everyone knew him and loved him, and he'd sniff around and roll around in the grass and participate in some, downward dog movements, all that type of stuff. I don't know what else you do with yoga. Anyway, during the class, Snoopy darted off to chase a magpie and ran right through the yoga class, knocking over one of the class members and causing severe damage to her knee and her back. Oh my God, I can hear you say it. But, poor woman, but at least she's got insurance on her business. Well, the insurer refused to cover Diane because the dog was the reason for the damage. Diane was sued by her class member, her client. There goes the asset protection. Jack and Diane are about to lose their home because, remember, the house is in her name. So I want you to make you think about, your assets in your spouse's name, are they in your name? If they are in your spouse's name, a further step, what does your spouse's will say? If something happens to your spouse, if they pass away yesterday and all the assets are in your spouse's name, they form part of your spouse's estate. They might have sort of done their own will, and that might bequeath everything to their sister or their sibling, not to you. What happens then? The third story I'm going to talk about is around protective estate planning. And we do protective estate planning, not destructive estate planning. I'm going to talk about the Smith family. Here's their family tree. I'll run through it a little bit. There's Mike. He is a 58-year-old successful mining engineer from WA. He spent his life travelling around the world for business, earning probably about 350 grand a year. But behind his professional success lay a really tumultuous personal life. Initially, the untimely death of his first wife there, Jane. And also the constant strife between his second wife, Rebecca, and his 2 adult children, Wayne and Tracy. 15 years ago, Mike had remarried Rebecca. She's basically 13 years younger than him. But it's been a constant source of tension between Wayne, Tracy, and Rebecca, who really felt, the kids really felt that she'd married Mike for his money. We've heard the story all before. But despite the animosity, Mike and Rebecca had an 8-year-old son, Tyler, whom Mike absolutely adored. Mike owned a beautiful $1.5 million house, no mortgage, and he promised Rebecca that she and Tyler will always be looked after. Recently, Mike and Rebecca visited their family lawyer to discuss Mike's estate planning. They both Mike and Rebecca instructed the lawyer Mike instructed the lawyer to ensure that Rebecca would receive 100% of Mike's estate. He explained that Rebecca had threatened to leave him if the will was not done according to her wishes, and she reaffirmed the statement in the meeting. Wayne and Tracy, the kids, they'd had friends who'd made family provision claim on their late father's estate, despite the smooth words from the family lawyer. So Wayne and Tracy were going to go for broke when something happened to Mike, to put it in Wayne's words. So what are the red flags that jump out at you here? Do any of you have a blended family? What about, do any of you have an adult child that still lives at home? They may have mental health problems. Or what we're seeing lately is they've got drug dependencies. So they've got many family issues that can disrupt and threaten your hard-earned wealth and lifestyle that you live today, both from a personal point of view and also from a business point of view. And unfortunately, most people end up the courts losing it all to those no-win, no-fee lawyers that I talked about before. So we asked this question: how important is it for you to protect your family's wealth in your bloodline for generations to come? So when we talk about wealth protection, when we talk about asset protection, sometimes, you know, in the business that we run, we're not financial planners. We can't tell you where to invest your money. But what's the use of investing your money, or what's the use of growing your business if you haven't got it protected properly? So looking at those three stories, in all those three areas that I've discussed today, I want you to mark yourself at between 1 and 5. How comfortable are you with your succession, asset protection, and estate plan? If you're a 15, then we probably don't need to talk. But if you're less than a 10, then we'd really love to have a chat. A lot of people don't want to think about what happens if something happens to them. It's really confronting. Even worse, if something happens to them, and how do they deal with their business? How do their family deal with their business if something happens to them? Because it's the last thing they want to think of. And everyone thinks, I'll just go to the lawyer. Well, maybe not. The lawyer is transactional, and they don't deal with empathy, they don't deal with compassion, and they don't deal with thinking about you. So if you want to come and have a chat, if you've got anything less than a 10, give us a call. There's my email, there's our phone number. And if you've got any queries, here to help.
Amazing. Brett, thanks so much. I love the adult rogue children. How do we get you to stop sharing your screen? Because all we've got is your dog on a skateboard.
I know, I've lost my share screen.
Here we go.
There we go.
Awesome. So obviously we've been through a lot this morning in a very short period of time, and some people, their brains will be sort of full. What I'd love to do at this point in time is, if anyone has any questions, now's your chance. Let's see if we can spotlight the three presenters. But if you don't have any questions, I want you to do this. I want you to, into the chat box, I'd like you to jot down what have been the top 2 or 3 distinctions or lessons that you got out of today's session. What have been the top 2 or 3 takeaways? So into the chat box, what have been your top 2 or 3 takeaways out of today's session? I'd love to hear from everybody who's actually tuned in and listening. And there's a reason I want to do it, and I'll explain that as you put them in there. Top 2 or 3 lessons out of today into the chat box. 1, 2, or 3. I expect to hear from at least one person. So let's see what we get. So top takeaways: the plan is daily and protect your wealth. Awesome. Thank you, Ray. Let's hear a few more. One of the things I learned when I started my coaching business 23 years ago is that you can spend a lot of time listening to really good ideas, like coming to an event like this and getting pumped. and sometimes entertained. And the dog story sort of got me thinking. But if you don't encapsulate or summarize your ideas into takeaways, and when I say takeaways, I'm talking about things that you can act upon. You potentially are wasting your time listening to people who are telling you entertainment value stories. We've had 3 presenters today, and we've talked about some very poignant ideas. And what I would love for you to do is just looking through the chat box at what other people are thinking about. If there's something that you think is worth stealing or market researching, steal their ideas. Because I don't want you to walk away from today's presentation without at least 1 or 2 action items. What am I going to do differently as a result of what I've heard from these 3 guys? What am I going to do differently? Because if we walk away and go back to work, you're going to go to your inbox, you're going to check your voicemail, you're going to go back to the grind. And for some of us, that's chaos. Okay. For others, we already know where we're going. So let's have a quick look through the chat box. What do we got? I'm working in chaos and need to work in control before growth. Excellent. Thanks. Montana, landing page optimization and financial protection. Excellent. Annie, embrace flexibility in business. 100%. Practice and plan for succession plans. Whenever things go wrong in the economy or wherever things go wrong in the world, I want you to think about rerouting in your GPS. What do I need to change in my plan as a result of what's just happened? Don't wait for things to blow over. Right? See if you can move quickly, because one of the biggest things, and Steve talked about AI, and I was threatened by it at the start. People going, "Oh my God, we're going to lose our jobs." I'll tell you the opposite is true. If you learn to use AI, you're the most employable person on the planet right now, right? Because everyone wants to know about it. So lean into these things because they're not complicated. And if you don't know how to use AI, ask AI to tell you, and it will actually do the work for you. So play with these things. They're not complicated. Need to constantly update website for optimization. Sorry, Steve.
That's a good point, David, about just get in there and play with it. Have a go. Jump in ChatGPT or Google Bard. Pretty easy to use as well. So that's a good point. Just jump in and have a crack.
One of the things that Ryan's been doing for us is he transcribes our videos. Like we use Descript and it transcribes them. He cuts and pastes that into ChatGPT. So you don't have to type anything. You just have to say what you're thinking, and then you plant it in there. And if it doesn't give you the right answer, you say, "Can you make it a bit more this, or can you make it a bit more that?" So it's interactive. Amy, so much good content. I hope you can rewatch and get more out. Yes, there will be recordings that will be sent out to you, I hope. Last time we forgot to push the record button. This time we've done it. So they'll be out to you probably in the next 3 days. I would suggest if you're not confident, each one of the presenters here today, including myself, is open to a conversation. So if you're a business owner that needs help, don't be shy, because I actually said to the guys, this is not a sales pitch. We're not interested in selling stuff. We're interested in helping people. And if you think you don't need the help of the professionals that we present here today, don't contact them. But if you want to start a conversation, it's worth engaging just to find out what they can do. Montana, working in reverse from the end and exit. Yes, starting with the end in mind is so key. But the number of people that don't know what the end is, they don't know what finish looks like for their business. So you need to determine that. Lauren, how to use AI in ways other than developing bot copy. When will my business look like when it's finished? Thank you. And developing an active business plan. Mine's currently passive. And we know they're passive when they have dust on them, or you haven't opened, like if you look at the opened recently file, it's not in there, which means it's not being used. Brilliant info facilitation, heading to the website for more information. Dina, working on your business and not in your business, 100%. Focus on the end game and optimizing marketing using GPS tweaks and plans. And what Brett talked about was some scary stories. I didn't think a dog could cause so much grief. Right. And
continually.
And see, that was a little change, right? So the wife decided to run the yoga business after everything was structured.
Mm-hmm.
And so that little change just created a gaping hole in the safety strategy. And I feel like, that's not an accounting thing. That's literally just a common sense thing saying, I need to constantly check this thing because life moves underneath our feet. And sometimes we don't see it move. So getting an expert to just check it is not a silly idea. And I think too many people get knocked out. Robert Kiyosaki said it really well, because people fear failure in our world. And he said, failure is the only way you learn, and people have to learn to fail faster. And when we talk about constant optimization, remember the rocket example. People say, what's the best advertising channel? It's the one that gets the leads. Right? Test things, test headlines, test visuals, test everything, and just constantly be dynamic. And that's how you become super successful. We got a lot of statements of lessons. If anyone has any questions of any of the speakers, now's your opportunity. You can just feel free. We've got a small group, so if you want to unmute, if you have, and if you haven't, what I might get you to do is unmute and just thank the presenters for doing an awesome job today.
Thanks for
everyone.
thanks for scaring me, Brett.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, mate. No.
Yeah.
Yourselves.
Very good.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Look, thanks so much for your time and attention this morning. It's one of those rare commodities that we don't like to give away, and I hope you got some great value from today's presentation. Like I said, if you want to reach out to any of the presenters here, please feel free to. Recordings will go out probably within about, probably by next week, Monday, if we can get them out early. Ira's on the call. She's actually going to be processing them as soon as we hang up. Feel free to reach out. Our job here is to help you optimize your business so that you're making as much as you can with the minimum amount of effort. And if anything you heard today resonates with you, make sure you take some action. Other than that, you've got 10 minutes to go, so you can go get a cup of tea, coffee, bathroom break, whatever you need to do, and enjoy the rest of your day, guys. So thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.